3 o'clock on a Thursday. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay. Today, our good friend David Cloninger will join us in just a few minutes, right around 3:15. DC on his way up to the next Welcome Home event, this time in beautiful Greenville, South Carolina. I'm not sure where the event is being held.
Well, you did say it's in Greenville. So.
In Greenville. Well, yeah, but more specifically,
where?
what's, yeah, like if it's downtown somewhere or out in the burbs. I don't know. A lot of burbs.
Maybe it's at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena.
Once
they get pickleball.
Right after pickleball?
Yeah.
Before water aerobics?
And one night before bingo. So if he wants to stay for bingo, highly suggest.
That's right. And Saturday, Alice Cooper.
And then in March, the SEC Women's Basketball Tournament.
If you don't know what we're talking about, real quick, I'll just say, years ago, I forget exactly when. Might have even been in the old building. We've been here now nearly right around 10 years in this building in downtown. We used to work over in Casey. But there was a commercial running for a concert, a Bon Jovi concert. Not just any, Bon Jovi's a pretty big deal, Bon Jovi. And it said at Bon Secours Wellness Center. That was how the thing came. And I was like, what the heck is that? Bon Secours Wellness Center in Greenville, Bon Jovi. And just before I go any further, it used to be called Bilo Center, which I did know what Bilo Center was because that's the big arena in downtown Greenville. And if they had just said that, I'd have been fine. So I look at Michael Haney, and I'm like, what is that? Like some kind of like rec center? Like what are we talking? And so then I did the joke just Thursday, bingo, Friday, Bon Jovi, Saturday, water aerobics. Oh, Bon Secours Wellness Center. And now it's Bon Secours Wellness Arena.
Which makes it sound more like a venue. Bon Secours Wellness Center sounds like a place you go.
I guess it was right after, like they just didn't drop center from Bilo, so Bilo Center to Bon Secours Wellness Center, but then they realized probably that...
The same thing that you thought.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like this sounds like, a community, place for wellness and recreation and such. So that's why we do that now. But anyway, David will be with us coming up in just a little bit. We'll get into... Yeah, look, we're not here to change the world when it comes to Carolina baseball. But
I'll try.
Yeah, I mean, some people are, but where are we? We know that Coach Maneri, we know what he told Elijah and me directly on Monday. We know what he said to reiterate those things yesterday before the team left for Auburn, or I guess Tuesday before the team left for Auburn. But David, obviously on the beat, doing a little more investigating, if you will, of just what the chatter is. So we'll touch on that, and we'll get the latest from David on Rasul Faison, the Gamecock tailback, hopefully, hiring Darren Heitner, the very accomplished NIL attorney who has helped Miles Studi here recently, and I think Jack and the guys had. And Tyler and the guys had Miles in studio a little bit earlier. He's helped the Cavender twins do some things down in Miami. That's where he's based, in the greater Miami area. And I will tell you, too, full disclosure, we have reached out to Darren, made contact, nice guy. And he, more than likely, I won't say he's definitely coming on our program, but he is more than likely coming on our program once we get an update, and he can kind of basically help us navigate everything that they went through. So, but we have reached out, and he is open to it. So hopefully soon.
Big J journalism.
That's right. Hopefully soon we will have Darren on the program again. Not today, but and I kind of a little tongue in cheek here, and I said this on yesterday's program. Kind of predict now that Rasul has hired Darren. It should greatly expedite the process, and I kind of told you yesterday, again, mildly tongue in cheek, that in about a week's time this will be over. Now, when I say over, it may mean a denial of the waiver. I don't know. I think he's going to get it, just kind of based on some previous situations we've seen, but no guarantees. And that's one thing we talk about a lot with the NCAA. It seems like precedent, unlike what you might find in the American judicial system, where precedent matters a lot. The NCAA seemingly doesn't look at it like that. Like they try to really, whether it's for better or worse, Elijah, they try to treat every case on its own.
Very ironic considering it's a governing body overseeing educational institutions.
Yes. So, but we'll talk to David about those things in just a bit. Got a lot of things going on today. First off, if you didn't hear, just real quick, and we'll touch on it again later, Jadeveon Clowney was cut today by the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, I think he's counting too much against their cap numbers in terms of some of the things they're trying to do. Last year, 5.5 sacks. They tried to trade him during the draft, didn't get any takers, I guess, because of the money he makes and the contract that he had. So now that he's been released, I guess he's free to go sign another contract. I think he'll still catch on and provide somebody,
sure.
with some kind of opportunity. He's not an every down guy anymore, but
he can still help somebody.
Yeah, somebody will pick him up, and I would think pretty soon here. But tomorrow, mini camp begins up in Charlotte, so they just needed to make some roster moves, and that was one of them. So Jonathan Brooks also placed. Well, he's not cut. He was placed on the PUP list. He will miss the entire season with another knee injury.
That poor guy, man.
Yeah,
came into the league nursing a torn ACL, and I think it was the other one that he tore.
Yeah,
this past year.
So, but he's definitely out for the entire 2025 campaign.
Poor guy can't catch a break.
And a little bit later on, we'll start to discuss a couple of things that are involved in the business of college athletics, but really this time the business of the SEC. And we may have, depending on one's point of view, and I will certainly say for my own sake, I think we have some positive momentum building towards a future SEC football scheduling format. So I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Yes.
And Elijah and I were going to talk about a few things, and then we decided this morning some of what we were saying, we'll save it for air. So next hour, we'll get into some of those things for you. How you doing?
I'm fantastic.
New Pope. I mean, for all the Catholics out there, big deal. American Pope. Nobody saw that coming.
First time ever.
Congratulations. He'll
Villanova grad.
Yeah. And I mean, look, we can blend a few things and have some fun with this. I got to think that Villanova grads, especially those that are really strong in their faith, are probably like, this is even cooler than winning basketball titles. Probably by a wide margin.
A very big day for the Big East.
Yeah. And I even saw one lady, I was watching the NBC News coverage of it, and Lester Holt is from Chicago, and the new Pope was born. Now, he hasn't been a Chicagoan, if you will. I guess once a Chicagoan, always a Chicagoan, but he left for college, and he's not lived in Chicago since. But to immediately do what Chicagoans do, there was one lady they were talking to that was just there, like, just being there to be whoever the new Pope was going to be. And Molly Hunter from NBC News was talking with this lady who was from Chicago, and she's like, yeah, now we got to find out, like, is he a Cubs fan or a Sox fan? He's from the South Side, I'm told, so he's probably a Sox fan. And I just thought, like, there you go.
I did see confirmation he is a Cubs fan.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So that question has been answered already.
Okay, good, okay. Because she said since he was from the South Side, that he was more likely a Sox fan. And I was like, I don't know. They didn't say definitively.
Funny tweet from our friend Will King earlier today, quote tweeted a tweet that was confirming that he is a Cubs fan and said, good, we have a Pope that relates to suffering.
Well, so do the Sox, right?
The Sox, and even more so now, because the Cubs are good right now.
Cubs are good.
The Cubs are really good.
Yeah, the Cubs are having a good year, and the Cubs have won the World Series more recently than the Sox. Both had been a long time without one when the Sox finally won.
Yep.
And it's hard to believe. The Sox won their series 20 years ago, right?
That was.
Yeah.
And now you look in the crowd at their home games, and all you can hear is,
there are dozens of us. Dozens!
No one's there.
That's true.
They're bad.
That's unfortunate.
They're bad.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But no, I appreciate all that what happened today means. In addition to the fact that this man is an American, although again he really hasn't even lived in America, I think, in well over 30 years. But nevertheless, it's cool. So happy for everybody.
Now,
Seems like a good dude.
Villanova fans get to feel what Cardinal fans feel all the time because there's always a Cardinal.
I see what you did there. It's good. Solid. Savvy.
Many Cardinals.
Yeah.
But not one vote for Albert Pujols.
Elijah's Reds beat the Braves last night. They'll try. The Braves will try to win the 4-game set tonight. Reds will try to even it, and then they both move on about their business. I don't know who the Braves have next. I haven't looked. I'm trying to just keep it like sports one day at a time right now for the Braves. But last night was a chance to go to 500 after an 0-7 start, and the Reds jumped out real quick with, I think, either two runs in the first, I think. Maybe 3? I think it was 2.
3.
I don't know. It was at least 2.
TJ Friedel hit 2 home runs.
Yeah, and it was 4-0 Reds. Braves scored 3. That was it. That was the final. So instead of being at 500, the Braves go back 2 games under, so they can't get to 500 tonight. But last night was the chance to get to 500. And I was like, let's try to get there. Because remember, when the Braves won the World Series, they were under 500 until like June.
Mm-hmm.
They had a bad start. It wasn't like that awful first week, but nevertheless.
They lost Acuna at the same time. So they were under 500 and lost their MVP.
Who should be back maybe in like 2 weeks. I don't know. It's taken a little longer, apparently.
As somebody who drafted him very high in a fantasy baseball league in which I put money down on, I have been monitoring his progress the entire season, and the estimated date of return went from May 1st to June 1st pretty gradually over the last couple weeks. Not loving that.
So hopefully before the end of the month, but not looking like that. We'll keep you updated on a few things. Elijah's got some thoughts on what's happening around Carolina basketball. We'll touch on that too now that it looks like everything roster-wise has been decided. Gamecock softball wins their first game in their tournament. They will play again tonight in the quarterfinals against A&M. We got a lot of things to get to around the SEC, so we'll be doing more than just a drive around. But let's break here. Come back on the other side. Our good friend David Cloninger set to join us. What's going on with Paul Mainieri's situation in Gamecock baseball? We'll touch on a little bit of off-season football news, too. David Cloninger, Post and Courier, coming up on the Postgame Show. 17 minutes after 3 o'clock on this Thursday. Welcome back in. Our next guest.
Better way to say that.
I know. Our next guest just gets me, I get nervous and choked up. And he's very intimidating, So I just got to be real careful.
It's the scowl.
Well, it's a lot of things. That's the Rock Hill effect, I think, more than anything when you think about it.
Especially on a day Jadeveon Clowney got cut.
Yeah, well, he'll be fine. Like we said, he'll be fine. But our next guest is our very good friend David Cloninger on the beat for the Post and Courier covering Carolina athletics. Always good to have you. You're not at all intimidating, or at least not in public. But David, it seems like over the last, week-ish, man, the internet has been abuzz here locally with the future of Paul Mainieri, and that it's short-lived. What can you tell us?
Is it that same internet that said that Lisa Leslie was going to be Dawn Staley's next assistant coach?
Oh,
that same one?
Probably.
Well, look, guys, the way that the Gamecocks have been playing, obviously those concerns are going to be out there. And everybody knows a guy or heard something or ran into, Molly's cousin, saw Ferris pass out at 31 Flavors last night. And they all know about Paul Mainieri's future. So I did my due diligence, and I could tell you that nobody over at the Rice has been discussing that at present. If they have, they've kept it to themselves. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought it would make no sense at all to make a move right now. And that's on either side. If they decided to make a coaching change now, well, then you're going to have to pay a very significant financial windfall to Paul Mainieri, that would be. And if, Paul to announce, hey, this is probably going to be my last year, and did that now, for him. So there was never going to be anything announced at this point or after the Florida series or whenever those people thought it was going to be. There's 3 weeks left in the season, and I anticipate a decision being made then.
So, how hard is this now in your estimation for what he's trying to do? He talked the other day, you were there, about recruiting in this environment, and they're having some success, but at the same time, when you want to bring a kid in for a visit and there's 500 people in the stands, or that they know that's what's going on, David, I just wonder how truly tenuous this situation really is.
Well, guys, you are what your record says you are, and this record is miserable. And if it ends like I think we all know it's going to end, this is going to be the worst season in modern history for South Carolina baseball, the absolute worst. So that's not good. That's not good that the program's been allowed to get this far in a slow and steady decline instead of somebody stepping in and saying, enough is enough and we're going to fix this. It's not ironic. I hate the wrong use of that word. It's just frankly sad and disappointing that it comes in a season where you've named the field after the greatest coach you've ever had in Ray Tanner, and you've also got this film coming out on the 14th about the 2010 and 2011 championship runs. Meanwhile, you have this product on the field. But, yeah, they also want to win. And USC threw a lot of NIL dollars at the roster this year. You see what the results been. If you say, well, we're going to throw even more at it next year, okay, because you might have to overpay to go get talent that may be considering other schools that are winning currently. And, of course, my constant question is, that's a fine solution, but who's paying for that? Where's that money going to come from? So we'll see what happens at the end of 3 weeks. But I know a lot of people, and I've done the numbers myself. I don't know if USC can afford this, a big-time coaching buyout. I'm like, have you looked at the people in the stands? I don't know if they can't not afford it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of thing too. I've talked myself into is that moving on from him right now would just cost you too much money, especially if you were going to move on from the entire staff. Because it's not just Paul that you're paying a lot of money. Monty Lee's the highest paid assistant in college baseball, and he's one of the 20 highest paid coaches, head coach or assistant coach in college baseball. I think you're getting close to about $9 million or so to buy out an entire coaching staff. And, David, when it comes to making, a decision about the future and still trying to have enough money to be able to allocate towards an entire roster, which you mentioned you're going to have to overpay for, how much of that do you think is the biggest, decision or a talking point when it comes to addressing the future of a program that desperately needs a splash in the offseason?
Well, Elijah, I don't confess to know every nickel and dime that goes in and out of the Rice Athletic Center. I have no idea what USC's books look like. I do know what I've seen with my own eyes, which is that they paid Paul a lot more money than they paid the other guy. They paid Monty Lee and some of the other assistants a lot more money than they paid their predecessor assistant coaches. And they're paying a lot of money to get this roster, just like they are doing for the men's basketball roster next year. So if they say they can get the money, fine, but you still got to go put it to good use and go build a roster. And if you feel confident that Paul Maneri and his staff can do that and give the guy the benefit of the doubt, maybe this was just a really bad year, okay, go do it. And at nothing else, if you do that next year and say, well, that's one more year off of his buyout and one more year off each of his assistants, and that's going to save you a good 1.5 or no, it should be around $2 million, $2.5 million if you have to make that move after next year. But the fact is that, I mean, they're the ones with the books, and they're going to have to decide, it's like, listen, do you really think it's going to get this better? Or because if you're setting up for another season like this one, who's going to come and watch this team, and are you digging yourself a hole that you will not be able to dig out of?
Yeah, David, I just keep coming back to the point we've all kind of made here, and that's that nobody's going to these games anymore. You got a 9,000-seat ballpark. You had Florida come in. You and I were joking about it. I've joked about it on air this week. You used to have street fights to get tickets to Carolina, Florida. Now you can just walk right up. That to me, the business of this, as much as the product, because let's face it, that's what people want to watch. That to me is still issue number one. You got to put butts back in those seats, and you got to do it in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. Fan apathy is what kills you, especially in a sport that is almost always going to lose money. That's the nature of the beast, and, you're fine with that because if you have a really great program, you'll probably be close to even. You may lose a little bit, but you're still going to be pretty close to even because of people coming to the games, concessions, and all that goes into it. But you're not going to get that this year, and you're not going to have the benefit of a postseason either. So it's going to be the choice of, can you really hope to do this again? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, Jay, let's just say doomsday scenario, they end up 5-25 in the SEC, program record for losses in a single season, and you stand up there and say, by the way, let's run it back. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Like, really? I mean, how are you going to sell that? I mean, I suppose there's always the outside chance, what we meant to tell y'all is we just went and signed the entire roster from the University of Tennessee. oh, well, okay, that's cool. But, I mean, how likely is that to happen?
Yeah, I would say. David Cloninger with us on his way to the next Welcome Home event up in Greenville. Shane Beamer will be up there. I imagine that you guys, maybe you specifically, or if not, someone else on the beat will be asking about the latest development with Rasul Faison hiring a big-time NIL attorney, Darren Heitner, to help him out. Not just NIL attorney, but he's been specializing in some of those things, but just an attorney now accomplished at taking on the NCAA. What do you take from this development this week?
Well, it's kind of strange, Jay. I asked him in Aiken on Tuesday after he mentioned his frustration in Somerville over the Faison situation on Monday. I said, would a legal action maybe be an avenue here? And he said, well, we'll do whatever Rasul feels comfortable with doing, but we certainly want to exhaust every option with the NCAA before we go to Plan B. And less than 24 hours later, Plan B is being implemented. Obviously a lawsuit has not been filed. Darren Heitner was good enough to correspond with me yesterday about this and said, no, I just sent a memo to the NCAA requesting clarification to go ahead and get this done. It's the same thing he did for Miles Studi, which worked out well. And as he said, I've already received, this is what he told to me, I've already received a response, and I think the NCAA will have a decision soon. Like, oh, okay, well, that's good. This is, I guess I'd classify this as a nudge. Like, hey, guys, you've had a whole semester, and I realize the particulars of this case with so many different schools and did this clock start here, did this clock start there. I get that, but it's been a whole semester. So how about, somebody get up off their butt and get this sent in because we need to know about the next step and if we need to implement it. And, of course, he wasn't going to tell me this. This is just me talking, but I have a feeling if the NCAA does say no, then it's like, okay, well, we'll move on to that lawsuit thing because you take the decision out of the hands of the NCAA and hope you get a friendly judge who, a lot of those judges, not all, but most, have been issuing injunctions in favor of the athlete playing next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing about this too, David, that the lack of urgency on the NCAA's part is annoying on one hand, and the other, I mean, this is a really big case for this football team too, because you didn't bring Rasul Faison in to only get like 65, 70 carries or like 60 carries, in the year. You got him because he's a 1,000-yard rusher last year at the Mountain West level, and you'd like for him to be able to maybe be the bell cow back and share some carries with a couple of guys that you have back there. But how big, in your opinion, is any ruling for Rasul Faison for this offense next year based off of what they lost with Rocket?
Well, Elijah, it's massive. Just because I'm not sure if you were here 2 years ago. I think you were, but to go through the season without a running back, as South Carolina did in 2023, can't do that. And they brought in this guy to probably be their number one guy. I do think that they have some really good players behind him. Oscar Attaway, for example, played his butt off in the bowl game. He played his butt off, and he was really great, and I think he'll be really great again this year. But it would take away your depth. Now, they do have 4 scholarship running backs without Faison, but one of those scholarship running backs is Bradley Dunn, who's a fantastic young man. He was a walk-on for 4 years and got put on Scully last year. So it's like, well, yes, he's on scholarship, but, nothing against him. It's probably not a guy you're going to be putting out there for 10 to 12 carries a ball game. So it would hurt the depth, and it would definitely hurt the production. I'm sure that it would take a large chunk. Be like, look, man, you know that Lenora Sellers can run for a lot of yards, but you don't want to have to force him to.
Always appreciate you, sir. Safe travels up there and back. A lot to be covering. We'll check in again real soon. Thank you.
Sounds good, man. Pearl Jam and Raleigh on Tuesday. See you there.
Ooh, have fun. All right. I know he's a big fan.
Jealous.
He was telling me about another show he's going to be seeing later this year, too. We'll talk about that another time. But pretty cool. Pretty cool. DCPNC to follow on Twitter, postandcourier.com. And, again, sign up for David's Gamecocks newsletter. Good stuff in there a couple of times a week. Got a couple of you want to talk about what we've been discussing on the phones. We'll do it on the other side. It's the Postgame Show. Homeowners need to make a few improvements, worried about how to pay for it, but you have some equity built up. Now is a fantastic time for you to take advantage of a Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union home equity line of credit. Maybe you want to consolidate some high-interest debt. Credit cards or other kind of loans, you can do that as well and really lower the amount of interest that you'll pay. As a local not-for-profit institution, Palmetto Citizens has been serving the financial needs of Midlands members since the 1930s, and their equity loans offer great low rates plus lower closing costs and application fees than you pay with the big bank. Plus, you can access that line of credit over a 10-year draw period. Once you open it up, there it is for you. So one room now, one room later, whatever your needs, go get it done. Apply today at palmettocitizens.org or at any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. Join my wife and me as members at Palmetto Citizens and achieve your potential. Just finished talking with our good friend David Cloninger, a little Gamecock baseball, as the state of the program, I don't want to say hangs in the balance.
It's reached an impasse.
But there is an inflection point coming here. Yeah, and David made a lot of good points too about, and I've said this as well. You and I have talked about this. Can you afford to? That's one question. Can you afford not to? That's another question. And you've got a future Hall of Fame coach at the helm, right? Hired, if you will, by a Hall of Fame coach. I guess the question, Elijah Campbell, would be, if you're making a move, are you going after someone in that realm? Because if you are, guess what? It's going to cost you. And you're probably going to have to overpay right now for someone to come here and understand that they're not just taking over. This has become a rebuild. That's the sad part about it. It's become a rebuild, period. Now, maybe more quickly than other rebuilds because of the climate we're living in when it comes to transfer portal, NIL, et cetera, but a rebuild nonetheless.
And here's the thing, too. When you are rebuilding in today's modern, athletics, what do you need? You need money to pay for your roster. And if you're spending $7 to $9 million in buyouts for your coaches, how much do you have left for players? Like that's the big thing for me, too, because not only would you spend money on the buyout, you got to spend money on a new coaching staff. And in theory, if you are making a move to fire a coaching staff, you don't do it with the expectation of getting a cheaper coaching staff. You do it because you want an upgrade, meaning you're going to have to pay more money for that new coaching staff than the old one. So then you compound anywhere from $7 to $9 million for buyouts. You're going to have to hire a similar staff for more money than that. How much are you going to have left over for a roster? Because then if that new coaching staff comes in and you don't have the budget to be competitive with building a roster, then what did you make the change for?
Yeah.
You basically just switched one problem for another.
Yeah. And you can't. So that's the point you and I are making. Like, you just, whatever it might take to hit the reset button, all right, you better be ready for that plus to begin the process. And that doesn't necessarily guarantee you any kind of major success. And we know what major success feels like around here. So, much easier said than done. Let's see what Keith has to say. He is up next on the phone line today. Hey, Keith.
Hey, Jay. Hey.
How are you?
Jay. How you doing?
I'm well.
I'm doing well.
Good.
I'm doing well. Just love the conversation with David. I just want to make a comment. And a lot, I respect David and y'all's input, but I want to shed a little different light here. And I know you cannot set NIL and transfer portal to the sideline, but we've been blessed. Think of the coaches: June Raines, Bobby Richardson before him, Ray Tanner. To think that let's just say, with the mindset of the people that say we need to get rid of this guy, bring somebody else in. I respect everybody's opinion, although that train of thought is almost ludicrous if you think you're going to bring somebody in and fix this overnight. You just made the comment that, this is a rebuild. At the end of the day, that's what it is. And this didn't start a year ago when the new coach came in. This has been a process that's going on since Ray Tanner stepped down. And whether it's Ray Tanner or the board being involved, you had one of the best coaches and recruiters in the country. And for whatever reason, you have to point the finger at Ray because he's the AD. But I'm sure there was influence from the board of directors. They let go the best coach they could have had. And, yes, we've had a couple of moments of brief success, but this has been a 12-year decline. And you know what they need to do? They need to go ahead and tell Ray, you know what, we appreciate it. Go ahead. Let's use that $880,000 in some way that helps this program improve, as opposed to thinking we're going to just bring somebody in overnight and it's going to be fixed next year. I've been around baseball my whole life. At the end of the day, yes, coaches improve talent, but at the end of the day, talent wins baseball games. So I just wanted to throw that into the conversation. And as always, love your show and interested in your input.
Yeah, thank you, Keith.
Friend.
Yeah, you listen. I will say your last point is very well taken, and everybody will agree with that. This is college sports. Again, I love telling this story of Dan Reeves. The last time we ever had him on the show, Elijah even quoted it on my behalf the other day. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the last time we had Dan on a few years back, we were just mostly talking NFL stuff, but at the end of it, it was right after Shane had been hired. And as most of you know, Dan Reeves, of course, played here at University of South Carolina before he became a Dallas Cowboy. And I said, Coach, you got any advice for the new head coach at your alma mater? And he, in that Georgia accent, yeah, tell him to go get some players. This is college football. Yeah, and it was that simple. So whether it's me coaching or Elijah coaching or you, Keith, or Paul Maneri or Ray Tanner, yes, you better have some talent. My concern now to say that's the jumping off point is if there's enough belief in keeping this staff around, and there are certainly great reasons to.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be enough to convince certain players? Or what's that recruiting pitch sound like, look like, feel like? Because if you're doing it from the visit standpoint, now, especially when you want kids to come to games, and I don't know how much of that is really happening while those kids are all playing ball right now, then it could be a little dicey, and you can get them in for a visit every now and then on a Sunday afternoon or something.
Especially if they're local.
Yeah. So that's a big concern. But, Keith, I think you make another point, too. And it's hard for a lot of people, myself included, to look back and try to figure out how much, if any, responsibility, blame, which has a more negative connotation, Ray Tanner has in this. One of the things we've known about Ray as an athletics director, and he's told us many times, he really didn't want to be a meddlesome AD. I'm gonna hire you. I'll do my best to give you the resources you need, and then I'll step out of your way. And that's a fine philosophy to hold. I do think, Elijah, to Keith's point a little bit here, indirectly, I'll kind of put these between the lines because Keith didn't say this, but, could Ray have done more as an athletics director? Not to say, hey, Coach Holbrook, hey, Coach Kingston, that hit and run you called in the third inning on Saturday against Arkansas, what the hell, man? Not that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, hey, are we maximizing resources here? What can we do? What can we shift? Or, hey, I don't think don't even ask. It's sort of I'm asking you, but I'm not asking you. And as your athletics director, I'm going to step in, and maybe Ray just never wanted to do that. If he sees that something is crumbling, because I was speaking to somebody that knows a lot about this program recently, and his point was well taken. You're watching your own child fail. You're like a child that you raised and nurtured and educated and fed and clothed and, taught how to drive. And your kid's just, in a downward spiral in life. And what are you going to go do about it? Or what more could you do? And I'm not saying that's what it is. But I do think that has merit. But it doesn't matter now. That's the next thing I'm going to say, is that doesn't matter now. Ray Tanner hired this current coach for the reasons that he has. We know some other pretty big names were very interested in this job. But now it's Jeremiah Donati's responsibility. And Jeremiah didn't have anything to do with this. But he's got to go clean it up. Or figure out what it looks like.
Yeah, or have a game plan as to how this can work with several contingencies built in there.
Yeah. But that's just the reality where the program is. But yes, Keith, you got some money to spend. You need to go get some ball players, man. You
Some
need
flamethrowers on that mound.
You need some ball players. More phone calls coming up. 11 minutes in front of 4 o'clock on this Thursday. Welcome back in. By the way, it's Thursday. It's May the 8th. So to my very, very, very good friend, Bradford Allen, happy birthday.
And may the 8th be with you. That's
right.
how that works, right?
Brad was in my wedding way back in the day.
Very nice. Happy birthday, Brad.
He went to a few Allman Brothers and Jimmy Buffett shows with us back in the day, amongst many, many, many other things. But he didn't go to school here in Columbia. That's all. He went to Dreer.
Well, so he technically went to school.
He went to school in Columbia, yes.
School.
But then when he went to college, he went somewhere else. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Probably Wofford.
Nope. But you're getting in the right direction.
Furman.
Closer.
I'm trying to think of schools that are up that way.
Happy birthday,
North
Bradford.
Greenville?
Happy birthday. Nope.
UNC Asheville.
Nah, still in state.
Still, an in-state
You're
school.
dancing all around it, my man. Maybe you'll figure it out eventually.
College of Charleston?
No, they'll get up that way.
Charleston Southern.
No.
Sorry, I didn't bring my compass to work. You pointing in a direction.
I don't know
where's
which
north or
direction.
south is.
I pointed up. Not. I didn't point on the compass, did I?
You pointed up, so I'm like, you went to somewhere celestial. It sounds like.
Yeah. Anyway, happy birthday, Bradford. One of my best friends. All right, let's get to Barry up next, wanting to talk about Carolina baseball and more. Hey, Barry.
Hey.
What's up? We got you. How are you?
Happy birthday to Brad, a good Clemson man.
Oh, you knew that. All right.
Oh, see, I was going to get to Clemson eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah, that gives you some credibility. Anyhow, we got a good man on staff. Monty Lee was there, and in my opinion, should have hired him before they brought Maneri in. But I think we could save some money and save pace, and I think he'd do a good job. My 2 cents is, they need to give it to Monty and let the program go forward. He can bring in the players too.
Well, and I don't know. Again, thanks for the phone call, Barry. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and try to do too much of that. Yes, Monty has a good resume. There's no doubt. That's really all I can say. Because if I go too far, then we get into too much speculation of, replacements and things like that. Again, I'm not here as we speak saying you better gut this thing and start over. Because again, you've got someone that is so proven, unlike your last two, who I had respect for. Chad had not been a head coach, and Mark had certainly not been a head coach at this level, needing to do what needs to be done to get this program where everybody wants it to be and where you've seen it. Not just everybody wants to go to Omaha, right? Everybody wants that. South Carolina's been to Omaha 11 times. South Carolina has played for a national title 6 times. South Carolina's won the national title twice. You've seen the top of the mountain.
And then when you go a decade plus without seeing it, you do go through some program withdrawals, and that's kind of what we're seeing right now.
Let's get to Mike up next. Hey, Mike, good afternoon.
Hey, y'all. Well, I'm listening to y'all's conversation, and I kind of disagree. I agree Maneri's got all these great credentials. He's got all this great experience. But, y'all, I haven't missed a home game this year, and I don't know. I've just seen a lot of very poor in-game management this year. I've seen a lot of pitching decisions where, quite frankly, just pulled them too soon and probably busted their confidence. And it's kind of showing now. And I'll say it. I think Kingston could have done a better job with the team that Maneri's got right now than what Maneri's doing. And I thought Kingston could have done better, and I wasn't a huge fan of him at the end. But I just said he's got great credentials, but I don't know. I think the game's just passed him by, and yes, I think he was good, but I don't see it happening with him, y'all. I'll listen to y'all here.
Yeah, well, Mike, thank you. I listen, our good friend John Whittle, who I think all of you know, I hope you do, I have the utmost respect for. And I have often joked somewhat seriously, maybe John Whittle knows more about Carolina baseball than anybody, including Ray Tanner, right? I mean, because John gets to know all the kids that play, and he knows Ray well, and he's been a part of this community for so long. John, to your point, Mike, was very critical. has been routine. I say routinely, but on multiple occasions with us. Mm-hmm. In addition to whatever John may be doing in print at thebigspur.com or other visits that he makes, because John is a very popular and educated guest on several programs across South Carolina when it comes to baseball and more. But we all know that baseball is John's first love and his highest level of expertise. And he's got a lot of expertise in a lot of things. But he's been very critical of some coaching decisions.
Yeah, I mean, Paul's not absolved of any blame, definitely. I mean, I think he would even tell you, right? I don't think he needs us to say this. Right. I think he would admit this has not been his best go-round as a coach, and that's outside of the win-loss record. He's certainly not absolved of any of the blame with what we've seen this year.
Sit tight. Got more of you that want to talk about this, so we'll do it on the other side. Plus, could we be getting closer to getting paid for 9 SEC football games? We'll discuss it. 4 o'clock on this Thursday. Welcome back in. Second hour of the Postgame Show coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate David Cloninger time a little bit earlier, and that spurred a lot of conversation around Carolina baseball. Busy on the phones. Get back to you in just a second. Also coming up this hour, we have updates on the House settlement talks, I suppose. I don't know what else to really call them right now because the revisions is probably the word too, but the revisions.
Only like the 40th edit.
Yeah, that's kind of what this feels like. The revisions were submitted yesterday, and Judge Wilkin has given objectors a week to respond. So we're still at least a week away. I think they have until next Wednesday, right? Yeah,
Correct.
I think they have until next Wednesday to tell her what they do or don't like. It feels, from what I have gathered, that she likes, a little bit of what she saw yesterday. But, again, she'll wait. We'll touch on that for you in more detail coming up in a bit. And could the Southeastern Conference have the incentive now in front of them, the carrot dangled, to move to 9 conference games? And who might object to that? How do you guys feel about that? Once we start talking about it, see what you think.
Mickey Mouse has made an offer, though.
It feels like it. Maybe he hasn't put the offer on the table yet, but he's intrigued, and I will not do a Mickey Mouse voice here. I know you want me to.
I'm fighting the urge to do it myself, but I haven't mastered it. I'm one who loves to do impersonations, but I don't like letting them fly publicly unless I have mastered it hundreds of times by myself.
I used to be able to do it better. I can't quite hit the high notes like I once could. So I'll leave that for others. But 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in on 9 potential SEC football games every year. Because I do think we're headed there eventually. But in the meantime, a lot of you wanting to weigh in on Carolina baseball. Let's get to Gary. Appreciate you holding on, Gary. How are you?
Hey, guys. Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on. So, This trend in Carolina athletics seems to be familiar, don't it? The football program was in pretty rough shape when Shane Beamer took it over, and he squeezed 6 wins out of that. Then we hired Coach Paris and had a really rough first year. Second year was pretty outstanding as far as the men's basketball team's history goes. And this year, not so great, lost some talent, what have you. And now we're coming around to baseball. Coach Neri, where we know his history, pretty outstanding coach, champion, all that good stuff. And we're having a little bit of a rough season, but I don't think we need to be as all up in arms. We got injuries, guys leaving, some guys coming in. We're not losing the midweek games, so to speak. I mean, we're doing pretty good in that department, but I just think we all just need to take a step back. No need in trying to get rid of a coach or make him seem a little bit less than what he is, or question his baseball philosophy. And I think we just need to let things develop. Even though Coach Nair is on a 3-year deal, we just need to let things develop. I think that'll be the best way we can have things, grow from having a program get back to what it used to be. We can't just do everything overnight or expect instant results just because we got a pretty tenured head coach, because we didn't have instant result type of players, if that makes sense. But thanks for the call, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. Now, listen, I think there are people that feel like you, and in a general sense, I would certainly agree. Now, I'm going to apply a general take to a specific take here. I am often one who says, yeah, you got to let it unfold. And there's every reason, to your point, to believe that here as well. I think those that would be run counter to your point of view will say, yeah, but maybe you also just realize sometimes in life that this isn't going to work. And is it better to just do it now and not continue? Is it a roll of the dice, even with someone who is a proven winner? And I can see that point of view as well. Again, I said this to you on Monday, Elijah. I don't envy this specific situation from Jeremiah Donati's point of view, because when he was hired, I really don't believe that this was something that he was thinking about. This sort of popped up. And, Gary, I get your point. You're winning the midweek games, and that is because those are important. But you didn't. The only one that was hard, you lost.
Right.
And they beat you by 6, I think. Wasn't it 13-7? Does that sound right? I don't have the schedule pulled up, but I think that was what it was, give or take. I mean, you kind of got beat, I guess, is my point. And in conference play, they're bad. I mean, they're bad. Yeah, that's fact. I mean, it can be an opinion.
5-19 is hard to lead you in any different direction.
5-19, but when you get beat, you get beat. We've talked about some of the metrics, and they are significantly worse than your opponents. I mean,
you're probably worse than those 5 wins.
Maybe
19 losses may suggest.
Maybe because you've been humbled in a few games. Again, you've been run ruled 4 times in your losses. 10 times you've had 10 or more runs scored against you. I mean, they're not good. But can Paul Mainieri turn it around? Sure he can. Does Paul Mainieri know tons about baseball and how to motivate young men to be better ball players? Certainly he does. And that's something that Jeremiah's going to have to weigh. Do I go spend, if I've got money to spend? Because here's the way I look at it, y'all, and I'm dead serious about this. And I know this may sound not outlandish, but hear me out. If you make a change, a full-on coaching staff change, you're making a clean break at that point, in my estimation. And that's going to cost you, if you did it today, not that you are, but for the sake of the discussion with buyouts, et cetera, if you did it today, it's going to cost you about $8 million. All right? And that's just to hit the reset button. And that gives you a clean whiteboard or chalkboard or whatever slate, right? That's all.
Etch-a-sketch.
That's what you start with. Yeah, you shake the etch. It takes $8 million to shake the Etch-a-Sketch. Now what?
And then you got to hire another coaching staff.
And it's gonna cost you that and more. So now, if you feel you need to do it, then you need to do it. If you don't, then yes, you can apply that money and maybe overspend a little. And that's not the term I really should use, but really go out and try to beef this roster up in a big-time way. Because either way, Elijah Campbell, you're going to have to beef this roster up in a big-time way. That's the point I'm making where I say, hear me out. Mm-hmm. If you want to hit the reset button, it does not change what you must do for the new staff that you bring in.
Correct.
So and that does that mean, that's why they can't do it or that's why they can't afford it? I don't have an answer to that question. I do think it's fair to be saying, can they afford to do it? Can they afford not to do it? It's a conundrum.
It really is. And I think the value to what Gary says, or at least the most value I get from his take, is that when you fire somebody after 1 year, you don't necessarily give off the impression of being stable as a program, right? Even when things are bad, you can still be stable and be able to build on whatever it is that you have. And I'm just going to, if we want to relate this to the NFL, I'm going to read you off the one-and-done head coaches since 2011, right? And I'm not even going to name the coaches. I'm just going to name the franchises who have fired a coach after 1 year, and you tell me if you think they're stable. The Las Vegas Raiders. The Jacksonville Jaguars. The Cleveland Browns. The 49ers went back-to-back.
Yeah.
But that was in 15 and 16. Took them a while. It took them until they got one head coach to finally right that ship. But they were pretty dysfunctional after Harbaugh left. Arizona Cardinals. Cleveland Browns again.
Yeah.
Jacksonville Jaguars again.
Oh, my.
Houston Texans. Your Denver Broncos.
Yep.
Which they were not very stable at the time. They were going through a pretty big playoff drought there.
Yeah.
Houston Texans again.
Oh, my.
The Carolina Panthers. The New England Patriots. Sorry, Gerard Mayo. Las Vegas Raiders again.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of teams that did
we
that.
hear 2 teams, times. Or at least,
I was just going through the instances. Yeah, just
yeah,
naming the teams that.
I'm just saying that. Well, you talk about stability.
Raiders twice,
right.
Jags twice,
Browns
twice,
Texans finally maybe have it going right, but yeah. Yeah, no, I listen, and that's why I've said too to go back, and this blends sports on this campus. But one of the things that is always, and baseball's different, and that's why I've got to treat it differently. With football, one of the things I said, Steve Spurrier finally provided some real long-term stability here, and yes, it did not end well, but once he got it going, it was good, and it's too bad it ended the way it did, and there were multiple reasons for that. Men's basketball here, again, there was a time when it was a proud program, but in most people's lifetimes now that are breathing and have a cognitive memory of it, it's just been kind of meh. That's unfortunate. I mean, even for me, I was born when they were good. Sadly, I don't remember when they were good. Not for any sustained period of time.
Right.
I've heard the stories.
Keywords, sustained.
Heard the stories.
Success.
I'd have liked to have been a part of that. And I do remember some times when I would say that the environment was equivalent to what it was when the Coliseum opened in the late 60s and early 70s, when we had that going on in the mid 90s. But then that went away.
Yeah, that only lasted, 2 years?
The year they went to the NIT and then went to 2 NCAAs, like that year, like when Melvin and BJ were, like it started to come around a little bit, but they went to the NIT. But it was still, you could tell, like, ooh, you know what? Something's building here.
Then what happened? Bad year. Fired the coach.
Yeah, well, then Eddie and Mike, Mike told Eddie, you got to go to the NCAAs every year. And Eddie was like, yeah, Mike, we're not going to be doing that yet. Like, that takes time. There's a huge mistake. Huge mistake. Honestly, that's maybe the second biggest mistake that's ever been made, in my opinion, for firing a coach. First is Jim Carlin. Shouldn't have fired Jim Carlin. Second one's running Eddie off. A lot of reasons. I get it, and whatever.
There's something to be said for stability.
But and I've said though, but football, like Carolina, the coaching tenure at Carolina averaged like 5 years for so long. Next, and it's exciting for like, yay, fun for a year, new coach, new energy, and then So hopefully Shane's around a long time, and from what he looks like now, I think he's going to be. All that said, y'all, I don't mean to ramble here too much. Sorry, I get going sometimes, but baseball's different because baseball, you're really good at it. That's what makes baseball at South Carolina different. And that's why you've got to look at it from a different lens, through a different lens. You're good at it. And how did the person that turned it around again, and this is what a lot of people are saying, allow it to happen? Yeah, and I touched on that last hour. I'm not blaming Ray Tanner. People aren't necessarily blaming Ray Tanner, but Ray Tanner was the athletics director. And it was his baby, if you will. Should he have done more? Could he have done more? Or did he feel like he did enough? And others around him say, hey, Ray did what he could. Maybe the difference was Mark or this guy or that guy or injuries. There's a whole host of things. Regardless, you're really good at baseball. What
was your thing?
Yeah. And I used to say, and I don't mean this as a slam, because I would come across people, they don't really know a lot about baseball. Baseball might not even be one of their 3 or 4 favorite sports, but they were cheering for Gamecocks across the front of the shirt as loud as they could at that game because those boys were good and the team was good and the program was good. And that's what makes this different right now, to where you can't just look at it like you've looked at Gamecock football through the decades and Gamecock men's basketball through the decades, because this sport has been very successful, literally reached the top of the mountain a couple of times. And as I've said, played for a national title 6 times. You've been there and through different eras. So that makes it tough. I get it. All right, more phone calls. Get y'all into a few other things about the SEC potentially going to 9 games, but it needs to be worth it, right? That and more as the postgame show rolls on. Integrated Media is the best at what they do when it comes to home theater and home technology, because it's not just what you watch and listen to. How do you keep your home secure? How do you keep your home comfortable? How do you keep your home lit, as in lighting? But you know what? You get all this stuff done and your home is lit. See what I'm saying? Integrated Media does that for you. Thank you very much. Swag really cool. And the merch. It's fire. 803-948-8327 is the phone number. Get Integrated Media into your house. You want brand new televisions that even look like museum quality art when they're not tuned into your favorite game or show? They can do that for you. You want amazing Dolby Atmos sound throughout the entire house? They can do that for you. How about outdoor home theater that looks and sounds just like the indoors? Yep, done. How about putting your security system, your thermostat, and your lights all on one app with your AV system? Yep, 803-948-8327. That and more with Integrated Media. Welcome back in. Postgame Show rolling on this Thursday. Jay and Elijah with you, 803-404-6100. A lot of you on the phones. We'll get into some texts as well. A little action on the Twitters. And I think later on Elijah's going to quiz me.
I am.
Yeah?
Going to see how well you know the Colorado Rockies and the Miami Marlins. I keep wanting to call them the Florida Marlins still.
That's fine.
They're always the Florida
You can't.
Marlins.
It doesn't matter to me. I don't like them either way. Still mad about 97, and that was a long time ago.
Well, there are two World Series.
The second one doesn't bother me as much. The first one, they shouldn't have gotten to go.
I've lived through 2 Florida Marlin World Series seasons in baseball. Yeah. Now, granted, I was 2 years old when they won the first one.
Yeah.
But I've lived through 2 of those before I've seen my favorite team play in a championship series.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's brutal.
It is, actually. It is. Gamecock baseball is the topic of the day so far. Homer up next wants to weigh in. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing all right.
I listen to you guys a lot.
Thank you.
I really think you guys are making a mistake or talking about this coach. I don't know much about him. I'm a retread from a transplant from Ohio. So, I mean, as far as the Buckeyes go, I mean, they were ready to fire Ryan Day after the loss to Michigan. And I just think you got to give this guy a chance.
Well, like I say, I don't disagree with that in theory, Homer. Thanks for the phone call. And honestly, from an expectation standpoint, I might not put South Carolina baseball fans in the exact same spot where I would put Ohio State football fans, but that separation isn't as wide of a gap as it would be if we were talking Gamecock football. Because, again, South Carolina has won championships. And this fan base is watching for whatever reasons. And, you know, with responsibility to go around, turn within 15 years from literally the best program in America to now, depending on how you want to look at it, the worst or second worst in the Southeastern Conference. Now, not the worst in America, but, you know, you're not going to make the tournament now. Again, and if this team, listen, God bless them if they go on a miracle run. And I realize that is a thing that can happen.
Baseball can be weird.
It can. So I will grant that it can happen. So I can't slam the door shut entirely. And listen, Homer, like I said earlier, man, I'm not calling for anything right now. I'm observing and I'm looking at fact. And then trying to juxtapose all that to what the future is going to look like and what this athletics director is going to have to decide. Am I ripping off a Band-Aid right away, or am I going to get a better brand of gauze and wrap it up real good? And let's go see what we can really do. How are we hurt or injured? You know, can ice and some naproxen help this injury, or do I need surgery? You know, whatever analogy you want to make. There's no one should question the resume of Paul Mainieri. And to be fair to Paul, to say, this is all on you, Paul, no. And I'm not saying that. There is responsibility to go around from the previous coach and the previous athletics director. Now, does that mean, what the hell? No, it doesn't mean that either. Because maybe it's been such a gradual slide. Remember, this time last year, this team was still in a position to be hosting the first round of the tournament, which I always say should be a number one expectation on an annual basis around here. You should expect that here. You've earned that as a program. You've done that. And I don't just mean fans. Everybody should. You've put that into this program. And this time last year, that's where they were. It didn't happen. And maybe it's because people started to realize, oh, no, man, if they don't host, or, oh, you know what, if they don't advance. And it slid. And by the time they kind of limped into and out of Raleigh. Mm-hmm. Even after that, they had a couple of nice wins over in Hoover.
Yeah, they made a run in Hoover, all the way to the semifinals.
But then they got to Raleigh, and it was just kind of.
And we're fortunate to win that first game against James Madison.
Yeah.
And then wheels kind of fell off late in that NC State game. And then the last game against James Madison that was one of those, you have to go in a different direction after if that's how your season ends.
Yeah. You just limped out. So, look, Homer, and again, Ohio State fans, I can appreciate why they were really mad at Ryan Day. But we also knew that's a really good team that he's got. Loaded with talent. And what you're seeing in Columbia when it comes to Gamecock baseball right now is not a team that is loaded with talent.
This would almost feel like if last year's Ohio State team, or any Ohio State team, not last year's, because last year's was so loaded and they were expected to be really good. A lot of people expected Ohio State to win a national championship. They just didn't expect them to lose to Michigan.
Yeah.
But it would be like if any Ohio State football team goes 5-7.
Right.
Just because it's not, one bad series. It wasn't just the 17-0 game against A&M. It was the day after blowing a 10-run lead against Texas A&M. It was this past weekend losing 22-3 in baseball to a Florida team that, yes, while playing better, is still in the bottom half of the SEC. It's a culmination of everything that's happened this year. And if you take into account the conference record, and then you take into account the 4 games against ACC opponents that are of SEC caliber, that puts you at 5-23. Mm-hmm. And that's, quite frankly, it's just bad. And we've gone through the numbers that may suggest that you might even be worse, than your record may indicate, because you have a winning record in 1-run games this season. You have a winning record in games decided by 2 runs or fewer this year. You have a winning record in games decided by 3 runs or fewer. You're 10-6 in those games. But you've been blown out so many times that there's just way too many instances this year where you take the field and you're not competitive on said field. And I think that's really the conundrum that causes the discussion that we're having today, right? If you're losing a lot of 1-run games and it's the same type of bad luck you've had, like with injuries this year, compounded with being competitive but still losing, then this conversation's probably different, or it's not happening, right? It probably still has happening to a degree, but it's the manner in which you've lost a lot of these games this year that makes you really have to reflect on what your program is, considering just 10 years ago you were at the top of the sport, as we've well mentioned here. That's kind of what makes this entire discussion possible.
Yeah. I say, I'll close it here for now. I do not envy what Jeremiah Donati is going to have to look at here, because everything's going to cost a lot, and I still look at the ballpark. People aren't going to the ballpark. And how do you rekindle that love in this particular offseason? And maybe you don't. Maybe you just have to wait until they go out and win some games again next year. Winning will ultimately cure everything. Grayson Griner told us that yesterday.
Yeah, you get you some dudes in the transfer portal, and you're able to spend more than everybody else in the SEC. And like what David said, too, because this is very true, you have to overspend at this point.
That's
because you got to sweeten the deal here for players to come here, because there's that real question they have is what is the future of this program even looking like? Now, if you can sell them into being part of a turnaround of a once great program, and you can get them to buy into that and be able to overpay a little bit, then maybe you can make some gains in this offseason when it comes to rebuilding the roster. But there's a lot of changing in the roster that has to be done, too.
I had somebody ask me this morning when I had a friend of mine ask me if it was a hypothetical, of course, if South Carolina is offering, some flame-throwing right-hander $1 million to come here and pitch, or Georgia's offering the same kid $900,000 as we speak. Like that might I don't know. Georgia, I feel pretty good about where they are.
Then, yeah.
I'll take $100,000 less because I want to get in the playoffs, and that's going to up my draft status, and I'll make that money up somewhere. I mean, I'm not, and somebody else might say, that's another $100,000 for me. I'll take it. Who knows? But that's kind of where Carolina is, to your point. Mm-hmm. Might it take 1.2 or something? Again, hypothetical, just throwing out numbers, and so we'll see. Good stuff. Appreciate y'all being a part of it. We'll get into a few texts as well. But on the other side, are Mickey and Minnie and Donald and Goofy ready to pay, Big Al and whoever else, Bevo, more to play more games? I'm just trying to go mascot to mascot here. Well, maybe, and we'll discuss when the postgame show returns.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. A few accidents to get to. They're causing some issues on the roadways, and we have plenty of them, so buckle up. Got one on Claudia Drive at Parkland Road, I-20 eastbound at I-26 near exit 64. Also have one on I-20 westbound at Longs Pond Road near exit 51. I-26 eastbound at I-20 near exit 107B. I-126 eastbound at I-26. I-77 northbound at Two Notch Road near exit 17. And lastly, in Lexington County, one on Lee Park Road near US 1 at Augusta Road.
We've been talking a lot of Carolina baseball, and if you want to weigh in on the text line, you can do so, 803-404-6100. But we'll shift gears now because a topic that has been up for lots of discussion is back in the crosshairs. Our buddy Seth Emerson of The Athletic, along with Andrew Marchand, who covers television for The Athletic, both reporting last night that Disney or ESPN. I like to use Disney in these terms because I think it's more apropos. I understand ESPN is a division of the Mouse, but in this case, there is apparently positive movement from Disney about paying the Southeastern Conference more money if the SEC moves to a 9-game conference schedule. One of the hang-ups amongst many over the last couple of years has been the SEC's unwillingness to do it unless they get more for it. And y'all might remember one of the reasons that the SEC and CBS ended up having a pretty bad split when all was said and done is because the SEC was really upset with CBS for not wanting to go in and renegotiate the television numbers when the SEC expanded, and CBS basically said, hey, we signed the contract and you signed the contract. We don't owe you a dime. And the SEC was like, yeah, but come on, you're going to make more money off of this now and we're not. And CBS is basically tough.
Too bad.
Tough. And so, that soured the relationship. And of course, listen, one of the things too, I could go on so many different tangents here and directions. ESPN this summer, at least as long as everything goes according to plan, and Elijah, you know this, is going to offer, probably by the fall, a direct consumer app. Right now, if you have the ESPN app on your television or whatever device, you still have to have some proof that you pay a service to get ESPN, cable, satellite, streaming, whatever. You can't just go. A lot of people have asked us that, like, hey, how come when I go to the ESPN app and I want to watch a game, it says I can't? I was like, do you have cable or streaming or satellite? No. All right, that's why. That's why. And again, that's just part of the deal to get subscription fees up where they are, and it's very expensive for cable and satellite and streamers to carry ESPN, but it works because a lot of people watch it and want to. That's how it goes. Anyway, so I say all that to say that ESPN's going to need the content, and they want quality content. Seth reports that the additional money would likely, I'll read verbatim here, would likely be in the range of $50 to $80 million on top of the current deal, in which ESPN pays the conference $811 million per year to broadcast its sporting events. Seth and Andrew also say that the league and ESPN did not want to comment for this story. I'll say this too here. He writes, ESPN's willingness to up its ante is an important development as it has been one of the main sticking points among SEC members to resist the push for 9 games. When the SEC announced the addition of Oklahoma and Texas in July of 21, momentum toward a 9-game schedule increased instantly, with Commissioner Greg Sankey among those privately in favor. Sankey finally went public with his preference earlier this year. So 50 to 80 million would mean an additional 3 to 5 million per school over what they're getting right now. That's something. And that, if everything else is equal, that's a decent chunk of change that you can use for stuff, right?
Well, especially since some of the backlash against like a house settlement and having to distribute money is we don't have it. This
would technically be a new revenue stream.
A lot of universities that are fighting against like a house settlement do so because they say they can't afford certain things. Some of those may or may not be in the SEC, and if money is that tight, I don't think you're in a position to turn down $3 to $5 million additional dollars.
Well, I think, and it goes on to say here too in the article, and we've discussed this as well. Look, soon enough, we're going to know what the college football playoff format looks like beyond the coming season. We still could have some slight changes for 2025, but anything that needs to be decided for 2025 has to be done unanimously. And likely all we're probably going to see for the coming edition of the tournament is a seeding change. I don't even think we go to 2 more schools or anything like that. I really don't. I just think we'll see the seeding change. But from 26 through 30 or 31, the SEC and the Big Ten basically run it, and everybody else just has to kind of go, thank you so much for this oversized novelty check worth 8 figures or more. We appreciate all that you've done for us. And go SEC. Go Big Ten. Jim Phillips be wearing a little SEC lapel pin.
It just says it just means more.
Right.
Cheering him on.
That's right. But Brett Yarmark won't.
Too stubborn.
No, he won't. Yeah. Anyway.
He'll fight somebody.
Anyway.
Might even refuse the check.
But they can control it. And so one of the things that they're going to likely get, they'll, ask for, is 4 automatic bids for those 2 leagues. And then 2 automatic bids for the ACC, 2 automatic bids for the Big 12. And then depending on how many are left, the rest of you, come on in. At least up until 16. And again, I hope they go to 16. Do you believe this will happen, Elijah Campbell? Do you believe? Because that's going to be part of it. I don't think they're going to go to 9. And remember, too, as Seth points out, there's not likelihood. There have been discussions of annual Big Ten versus SEC non-con games, which I think would be fantastic.
I think we're getting both.
Yeah. And then you make more money.
Because you know what? If let's just say I owned a business where I didn't have to pay my employees for a long time, I got in trouble for it. Now I have to. Now I have to find the money to get them. And I haven't, let's just say over the course of the last 40 years, maybe was, fighting it to the point where I might not be as prepared to finally have to start paying what they are owed. If I get an opportunity to make an additional $3 to $5 million just to add another conference game, or maybe get with the shared television partners, because some of those Big Ten and SEC games would probably be on Fox. I think they would probably, in that hypothetical,
the ones in the Big Ten home stadium.
Yeah, they will divvy those up.
Or Peacock or something.
You will still get a good chunk of money there.
Yep.
I'm going to try to get every dollar I can.
Yeah.
And here's the thing too. If you take advantage of those 2 extra games, you can get yourself in the college football playoff.
And you might be a top 4 seed and get you extra money that way or whatever else too. And listen, I know a lot of pushback has been because, certain schools, Kentucky primarily, it feels like, looking in your direction, don't want to lose. Okay.
As if Kentucky needs help losing.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing too, and again, I'm not gonna name any names because I don't want to pick on any schools. I've probably done that enough, and I don't want people to think I'm a mean old grump, although I probably am.
Just depends towards who.
That's right. So if you're scheduling directional tech, or if you're South Carolina, let's say, and you schedule directional tech, or you get to play Michigan State, For directional tech, you're going to charge maybe $50. Got to pay the same amount of people to beat your ballpark. Got to have all the same amenities, all the same logistics go into it, whether you fill it up or not.
And you got to pay like an additional $1.5 million for that school to come to you too.
Or you could charge $100 to play a Big Ten team and keep the leftovers.
And the TV revenue is pretty good too, because that game's not going to. The game against Directional Tech, it's going to be on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, and
the game against Michigan State, going to be nationally televised.
Yeah, and so as long as the losses aren't mounting to the point of being damaging to your ability to get into the playoff, because there's going to be 4 auto bids, then I think everybody goes along with it. You get better games, you get more money, and it just makes a lot of sense.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, even if you lose.
Which is why I think they do both.
It goes against Trent Dilfer at that point.
Can't win in the NFL if you're losing.
All right, Elijah's going to quiz me on the other side. I'm nervous about this one. I think I'm going to go over. We'll see. Be right back. All right, welcome back in. Postgame show rolling on, coming up top of the hour. Headlines of the day. We've had a lot of discussion on Carolina baseball today. We'll let you hear a little bit from Coach Maneri. Gamecocks and Auburn scheduled to get going tonight, but the Deep South is going to get wet this weekend. So I don't know. I think tonight they're okay. I'll double check for you. Elijah's been busy with traffic, so I'll try to do the weather.
Fair point.
From 5 hours away. See what we can do.
The not-so-local weather.
That's right. All right, in the meantime, it's quiz time, so that means there's game show music.
Yes, there is.
And then we're going to find out what today's quiz is.
It's time to give away a pair.
No, it's not. Oh, that's. I see something in here.
I thought you had Chris do something.
Dude,
I was so excited.
I wish. I wish. You know what happened? I see something in here that says game show music mixed down, thinking it's going to be game show music. Foolish on my part. So you know what? We're going back to old reliable.
No, that's fine.
Foolish.
But I thought you would go on to production director, guru extraordinaire Chris Logan and said, I need you to do something for the show.
About to.
Yeah.
That has sparked an idea.
Yeah, that I was ready for that.
There are no free tickets. Nobody call for asking for tickets, please, for the love of God. All right, okay. We're going to play today. It's not Jay or Nay.
Okay.
But it's Rocky or Marlin.
Oh, Rocky. I thought you were going to say Rocky or Bullwinkle.
Oh, that's next time.
Okay.
So I'm just going to give you
Rocky or Marlin.
And these aren't random players on the team. These are players who have started a majority of the games for their teams. You just got to tell me if they play for the Colorado Rockies or the Miami Marlins.
And I've okay.
All right. Number 1, Ray Feltner.
Rocky.
Oh, 1 for 1.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Yeah, I watched him the other day.
Ray Feltner is a Rocky.
Yeah.
How about Jake Bird?
Now, there's no tricks in here, right?
No. All these are real players.
These aren't like when you make up NBA names like Pascal Siakam.
Rocco Wallace is not walking through that door.
Or my guy, Brax Gillette.
Brax Gillette's in the minors.
Marlin.
That would be incorrect. Jake Bird is not only a Colorado Rocky, but Jay Phillips, he leads the Rockies in WAR.
Should have known that.
All right. Cal Quantrill.
Marlin.
Correct. Look at you. Off to a really good start.
Yeah.
Dane Myers.
Marlin.
Oh, once again. All right, 3 for 4.
All right.
You're on pace to pass. We're halfway through this test.
It's a very good baseball. Yeah. Okay.
And you're on pace to pass.
All right.
Max Meyer.
Rocky.
Max Meyer is a Marlin. One of their best pitchers, actually.
Yeah, I should know.
Jacob, don't call me Kevin Stallings, because Kevin's his dad. Who's Jacob play for?
He was a good college player, too. He
was.
Rockies.
Correct. Look at you. So right now, you're already 1, 2, 3, 4.
4 for 6.
4 for 6. Yeah, okay. On pace to pass. Now, if you drop these next 2, then you fail.
Yeah.
Kyle Stowers.
Marlin.
Correct. All right, this is a big one right here. This is the last one. Nick Martini.
Ooh. Rocky.
Look at you.
Yeah, okay.
6 for 8. That's a passing grade.
That's pretty good. Yeah, man, because they have so few good players these days.
You did better than I thought.
Yeah, I did better than I thought too. I was actually prepared for, like, if I had time to say it, I was going to say like over under 1.5. So I did okay. A little luck involved.
I will say, if you have watched either of these teams recently, some of the names may sound familiar because all these are not just starters; they are some of their better players.
Yeah, I did. The Braves hadn't seen the Marlins yet this year, have they?
I thought they have.
Maybe they have. Maybe I just didn't watch it.
I know the Reds have played the Marlins. Braves probably haven't.
I don't know if the Braves have. The Braves have played in Denver because I did watch a little bit of that. I don't think the Braves have played Miami yet.
They might. Yeah, they might not have.
Yeah, they haven't yet. Hang on, I'm double checking to make. Yeah,
Sandy.
Oh no, they have. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
When?
Oh, that's right. You know what? That was the first weekend, the first home weekend. They won 10-0, and they lost 4-0, and then they got rained out. That was, I think that was Masters weekend, right?
You might be right.
Or something. I don't know.
You may be right.
But I don't. You know
I
what?
may be crazy.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't. Whatever that first home weekend, I didn't watch either one of those games.
Because you probably don't want to have to watch them.
Well, no, I was probably, by then I was probably just like, man, the Braves are 0-7. Just wake me up when they win. But I do remember getting alerts on the 10-0 game. I think the family had gone out to dinner that night. Yeah, so that's, anyway. All right.
A better alternative than watching the Miami Marlins play baseball.
That's,
6 of 8.
Yeah, that's good.
This might be a Jay Phillips record in any type of quizzical game.
Well, that's good. If you just put that in just total standings, that'd be a lot better for me, regardless of what it is.
That might be your best performance yet.
Yeah.
I've been quizzing you now for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And that was your best one.
Well, I think I enjoy the NBA, fake name.
Oh, we'll bring that one back.
That's good.
We'll bring that back.
Headlines of the day, more on the Gamecocks and a drive around the SEC, all in the final hour of the postgame show, along with my co-host, Brax Gillette. When you're waking up feeling a little stiff, or you know what? You don't have to wake up feeling that way. It might be that way all the time. Time to go see the experts at the Joint Chiropractic Centers, 4 of them across the Midlands of South Carolina. All right, Harbison Boulevard, Forest Drive, Roberts Branch off Killian up in the northeast side of town, Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. Local owners Janet and Bob Keene have been doing this a long time, and they really just want you to feel better. They're convenient, they're affordable, they'll help you maintain a healthy body, and you can prevent reoccurring issues. That's a big thing. Never been to a chiropractic center for just $29? The Joint can give you a consultation, exam, and adjustment. You find out if it's right for you. They're FSA and HSA approved. You never have to worry about appointments or insurance. Monday through Friday, 10 to 7. Saturdays, 10 until 4. Again, Harbison, Forest Drive, Roberts Branch, and Sunset. Remember this, folks. You don't have to feel bad to feel better at the Joint.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a couple of accidents and some traffic backups to report to you. We'll start with a traffic backup caused by some road construction in West Columbia. That's got 2 lanes closed. That's on I-26 eastbound after US 21 and US 176 near exit 119, so avoid that if possible. We have some accidents causing some traffic backups. One on I-20 eastbound at I-26 near exit 64. One on 26 eastbound at I-20 near exit 107B. And lastly, one on I-126 eastbound at I-26.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Thursday. Welcome back in. Also, the final hour of the postgame show, along with Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. We start with Gamecock baseball. Carolina making its final road trip of the season, true road trip of the season. They'll be at Auburn for a 3-game set that starts tonight. Brandon Stone gets the ball on the hill for the Gamecocks. He's 2-5 with a 5.09, 39 strikeouts and 53 innings pitched. Cam Tilley will go for Auburn. He is a sophomore righty, 2-1 with a 4.78, 41 strikeouts in 32 innings pitched. Jake McCoy will go for Carolina tomorrow. Sam Dutton goes for Auburn. Carolina has not yet chosen a Saturday Game 3 starter. Auburn going with freshman Christian Chatterton, and we'll have more on the weekend games on tomorrow's program. Not really a scouting report here in terms of what Auburn's going to look like, but Paul Mainieri hoping that what Butch Thompson and Auburn have done this year can be something that South Carolina can emulate next year when it comes to turning a program around.
Yeah, absolutely. It shows it can be done. The one thing that has to happen, and I believe that our administration is doing that, is they have to give you the support, because it's an expensive sport to put a team together now. I think you all know that. And, listen, it's not like you're the Yankees or you're just going to go out and buy free agents, and, it's still recruiting. Everybody in the league is spending money on players. So, it's all relative. And, but it shows what Auburn's done this year. It shows that anything is possible. Way back, I told you, the difference between 07 and 08 for me was like night and day. Of course, it was different circumstances. Then there was no transfer portal. There was no NIL. There was no revenue share. There was none, 11.7 scholarships, not whatever we're going to have next year. Circumstances are different, but Terry and I know how to do it. So that's all I can say. I'm confident that we can make this program what we want it to be.
Interesting comments. And again, I think Butch Thompson's doing a really good job at Auburn this season. Auburn's poised to potentially be a top 8 seed, or several Southeastern Conference programs at this point. That's why the next 2 weekends and the tournament are going to actually mean a lot when it comes to national postseason seeding.
Auburn's third in RPI.
Yeah.
Well, you would not have thought that was going to happen at the beginning of the season.
No. Well, Georgia's 2. Who's won this week, by the way?
Texas.
Yeah, so Texas, Georgia, Auburn. 1, 2, 3, right?
Arkansas 4, Vanderbilt 5. The SEC has the entire top 5.
Yeah. I don't think you'll get more than 5 national seeds, but I don't know anymore, man. What's the top 10?
So Oregon State, despite not winning a conference game this year, is 6. It's a joke because they're independent this year.
I see what you did.
Florida State at 7, LSU at 8, Clemson 9, North Carolina 10.
I could see those top 5 SEC schools, if it were to remain the same, Clemson, North Carolina, and Oregon State. Or sorry, Clemson, Florida State, and Oregon State being the top 8. If it ended today. But it doesn't, so we'll see.
So you just swap Clemson and LSU.
Yeah, because I don't think they'll put 6 Southeastern Conference schools. I don't think they will. They might.
They may.
They might. If you earned it, you earned it.
Stranger things have happened.
I'm not on that committee.
Great Ronnie Millsap song.
Yeah, I'd like to have those committees have cameras and microphones. I don't want to watch 12 hours of deliberation, but somebody will. Aaron Fitt, looking in your direction.
Somebody will want to watch them eat and talk about the resort they're staying at.
Sorry. Actually, I don't think they get a resort, man. I don't think they get like the CFP where they get to go to like the Four Seasons, Dallas, wherever they go.
Well, they probably get the finest.
I think they get like the Ramada just outside of Indianapolis.
But like the finest Ramada.
It's a nice Ramada. Actually, do we still have Ramadas?
We do. I stayed at one in Birmingham for the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
Was it a fine Ramada? Define fine.
Yeah.
But it was a Ramada.
Yeah.
I have stayed at some really nice ones.
I have
I'm not
too.
trashing the brand.
I remember a Ramada when I was a kid, and when I went to summer camp, we would stay like on the last night, and then the next day we'd stay, and they had this amazing like breakfast place attached, I guess, to the Ramada restaurant. But man, the pancakes were awesome. That was a long time ago.
I love a good pancake.
I do too. But I honestly, one of the highlights, like I loved camp, so I didn't really want to leave. But like one of the great things was like the next day before coming back to Columbia, so I knew I was going to get that big pancake breakfast for like 5 straight years, man. I was like, yeah, all right.
Gives you something to look forward to. Going out with a bang.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. So there's that. So I'm glad we still have Ramadas. I don't know if they have good pancakes.
I think it probably varies.
Did yours have pancakes?
They did not have.
Did you have a
breakfast
vending
with us.
machine at least?
Well, there was a vending machine. Yes.
But no pancakes.
No pancakes. Pancakeless.
That's unfortunate. Anyway, all right. So there you go. Gamecocks at Auburn. And unfortunately, I didn't have a chance yet to look up the weather forecast. But Captain Dave told me that it's a 40% chance tonight, 80% chance tomorrow night, and 70% on Saturday afternoon. That's tonight feels like they triple header tonight. Just get out of the way.
Might as well. They're young.
Yeah, exactly. They'll be fine. School's out.
Yeah, they're nothing to decide for.
There's nothing to worry about. The Cincinnati Reds beat the Atlanta Braves last night, 4-3, the final score. Atlanta had a chance to get to 500. So did the Reds. The Reds were the ones that took it. They are now 19-19 to the Braves, 17-19. Two teams going at it again tonight. Fourth game of the series. Nick Lodolo goes for Cincinnati, 3-3 with a 3.27. Spencer Schwellenbach, 1-3, but with a 3.92 for Atlanta. 7:15 first pitch tonight. And then, since I didn't know earlier, who did the Braves have this weekend, Elijah Campbell? I should probably have looked that up when I was looking at the schedule earlier.
They will play a Major League Baseball team.
They will. That's a fair point. And that Major League Baseball team will be at the Pittsburgh Pirates, who, by the way, feature. And so, you know what? I'll just cut to that one right now.
Look at that. Segue.
The Pittsburgh Pirates today announced the firing of longtime manager Derek Shelton. He's been there since 2019, but the team was not good when while he was there. 306 and 440 losses. Ooh. But they've lost 7 in a row. They're 12-26 this year, 10 games back of Chicago. He was hired in November of 2019, so in the offseason there, and then had the COVID year and hadn't been good. But it's sad to see the Pirates, because again, the Pirates in baseball are kind of like the Dolphins in football now. Like when I was a kid, and for a lot of people listening, like the Pirates of the 70s and 80s, man, they were good.
Well, the Pirates are basically the Reds.
And into the 90s, really. I mean, when the Bonilla and Bonds thing broke up, and like Sid Bream came to Atlanta, Doug Drabeck left, like those teams, they were good, man.
NLCS appearance.
Yeah,
right?
a few. World Series? No.
I don't think that.
No, they didn't make a World. They didn't make a World Series. I was thinking of Cincinnati went in 90. Your Reds won in 90.
Yes, and that was the last one.
Yeah.
Eric Davis and Chris Saba.
Yeah, and then the Braves beat the Pirates 91 and 92. I was thinking that the Pirates had gone earlier, but and then it was the Giants before that and the Dodgers. But they were very good, man. And I think the Pirates won the World Series in the 70s and the 80s. Something like that, or at least maybe 70-something and 79. The We Are Family, Willie Stargell and Dave Parker and those guys. But now they're just kind of They're a baseball team that plays in Pittsburgh. But Derek Shelton fired today. Braves will be at the Pirates this weekend. Carolina Panthers today announced that they have cut Jadeveon Clowney. JD had 5.5 sacks last season. He is 32 now, was due to count close to $14 million against the cap in the second year of his 2-year deal. But according to our buddy David Newton of ESPN, he says Clowney's release had as much to do with Carolina wanting to get free agent acquisition Pat Jones II and 2 of their draft picks on the field as it did about money. We mentioned earlier, I think Clowney gets picked up pretty quick here. I do. At least gets an opportunity. Yeah, he can still help. 5.5 sacks last season, not great for what they paid him. But I think they're ready for they're ready for a youth movement as much as anything else. Even if he's the hometown guy. So, yeah. J.D. Clowney moving on. We'll find out soon enough here where he lands. NBA last night, another absolute stunner in Boston as the Knicks down 20 again. Come back, outscored the Celtics by 13 in the final frame, and win the ball game 91-90. New York takes a 2-0 lead. Again, both wins on the road. They'll be playing at the Garden this weekend. That's MSG. Thunder, though, had no such instance of a second straight home defeat. They basically told the Nuggets to hold my beer and then hold another beer. 149-106.
Ooh, they saw all these road teams winning in the second round of the playoffs and said, you know what? I don't like that.
Yeah, that's enough of that.
Happened to us once. Let's not let that happen again.
Only one game tonight in the association. It'll be the Dubs at the T-Wolves. Of course, Golden State without Steph Curry for at least a week. Steph saying it's a big blow. Hopes to be back as soon as possible. Whispers out of Warriors camp say that Steph will return to the lineup in Game 5.
Yeah, he's essentially ruled out 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, that's too bad.
That's tough.
Which means he would not come back until another game in Minnesota. But hey, you know what? What if the Dubs just go ahead and win? Don't have to worry about it.
That would be a pretty damning indictment about the Minnesota Timberwolves and how good the Warriors' defense is.
Minnesota favorite. Now, I guess if Steph were playing tonight, this spread would be lower. Minnesota by minus 10.5 tonight.
Yeah, sounds about right.
These teams are only a game apart in the standings. So if Steph plays, it's Minnesota minus 6?
That's what That's what it was in the first game, I believe, too. I think the Timberwolves were favored by about 6.5 in Game 1.
All right. And finally, South Carolina softball last night beat Alabama 6-2, 3 straight wins over the Crimson Tide, including 2 in the regular season last week. Gamecocks will get A&M tonight in the quarterfinals over in Athens. First pitch is scheduled for about 8 o'clock. Those games are on the SEC network. We'll stay with some Gamecock thoughts, revisit a little of our baseball conversation on the other side. And if you want to weigh in on that and what you're seeing, 803-404-6100. Got some thoughts from Shane Beamer as well. You're listening to the Postgame Show. AAA Heating and Air ready to keep you and your family nice and cool. And mention to you that we have upstairs where my daughter's bedrooms are, brand new AC system up there, and where the attic is. So they're keeping all the stuff that my wife thinks is important or that she lets me keep is all nice and temperature controlled once again with a brand new system from AAA Heating and Air. And you know what? Called them up. This thing was basically by Monday, it was like kaput. And
German for broken.
And by yesterday afternoon, brand new system was installed. That's how quick they can do it for you, too. Guaranteed financing, no payments or interest for a full year, $1,500 rebate, 15-year parts and labor guarantee. If it's time for something new to make sure that you stay nice and cool all summer long and warm in the winter for, that week or two when it's cold, 803-677-1500. Call my friends at AAA Heating and Air. Seventeen minutes after 5 o'clock here on a Thursday afternoon. Welcome back in. And once again, let me say, just in case he wasn't listening last time, or he is right now, but if y'all know him, say hey. But today is my very good friend Bradford Allen's birthday.
Happy birthday, Brad.
And should I say how old he is?
Yes.
He's double nickels, man.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go.
The double nickel. Very nice.
Happy birthday, Bradford.
It's a whole, 10 cents?
That's right.
Does that technically make him a dime?
That's right. Yeah, but I hope Brad's like me. Brad has daughters. 2, not 4, but hope they do something nice.
Between the two of you guys, you have a starting 5 and a 6 man.
Yep. And like me, Brad married up. So way to go.
It's the only way to do it.
So I don't know what Mary Catherine's doing for him. But anyway, happy birthday, Bradford. 55. That's a should I send him like a gag gift? Like, nah, you know what? Because here's the thing. I'll be there in just a couple months, and I don't really need the retribution.
See, that's when being a little younger doesn't play in your favor, because if you clown him first, then he has to clown you next.
Worse.
Yes.
I don't need that in my life.
But the initial clowning is always really fun. And if you set the bar really high, it takes a lot of effort to outdo you.
That's true. If I do enough, he won't even want to try.
Yes.
But now his birthday's almost over.
Should add some planning.
Yeah, I should have thought more about this. Well,
it's always next year.
You know what? Let's do it this way. I take all my happy birthday wishes back. How's that?
That's easy to top.
Now I don't even care. Just because I've known you for 30-something years. Or longer. Well, yeah.
Longer than that.
Since high school. So we're coming up on 40 that I've known him. Yeah.
That's how that math works.
Yeah, we met in high school. Yeah. Again, he went to Drea. Anyway, all right. We've been talking a lot of Carolina baseball, well, for a while, and even in the midst of what could potentially become the worst season since South Carolina joined the SEC. Hope not, but you never know. The future is still something that is top of mind for Jeremiah Donati. And he inherited this. We can talk about responsibility of why the program is where it is. I do think while a lot of it is going to be at the feet of Paul Mainieri as the current head coach, there is responsibility from Mark Kingston and Ray Tanner too. And I don't mean Ray Tanner as coach. I mean Ray Tanner as athletics director. We've all seen the program slide in some ways. And listen, I had somebody, Elijah, and it's fair. I had somebody ask me, why didn't Ray give Mark a lot of the money that they ended up investing in coaching for Paul? I don't know. You'd have to ask Ray. If they had, would it have made a big difference? I don't know. I'd like to think it could have, but I don't know. But one thing I do know is that this time last year, Mark had his team still poised to be a host in the NCAAs. That's not me saying, so you should have kept Mark. But you basically doubled the head coach's salary. Not quite, but close. And you're paying Monty Lee a lot of money. And Terry Rooney is doing well. I don't know what they pay John Hendry. But, that's a fair question. I don't have an answer. Regardless, now there's a new athletics director. And he, as I've said before, has in many people's minds an unenviable task of trying to figure out what he's going to do to not just get this baseball team back to respectability, but back to what this fan base believes this program should be, and that is amongst the elite in all of college baseball, because you've been there and you stayed there for a long time. Here's Paul Mainieri before the team left for Auburn on his relationship with Carolina's new AD.
He's a great guy. I love Jeremiah, and listen, when Ray decided to retire, I was very transparent about that. I wasn't happy about it. I was very concerned about who they would hire. If I could go out and pick the AD to be the AD here now, I would have loved to. Now that I know Jeremiah, I didn't know him before then. He's been nothing but supportive. He's been phenomenal. And he's doing everything he can do to support the program. And I think he has confidence in me and my staff, and I have confidence in him. We have a wonderful relationship. And not just him, but the other administrators, Tyson Lusk, Jeff Davis, Charles Bloom, on down the line. They've been nothing but great. We had a head coaches meeting yesterday. I sat with Shane Beamer. He's totally supportive. Lamont's been amazing. Everybody, Ashley, I'm so happy for her. She did it in the first year. It's a much smaller team. A couple of key players can make a good difference, and she's done it. I'm so happy for her. And that probably makes me look bad, but it's okay. Look, I'm comfortable in my own skin. I've been around a long time, and I've had the arrows and the bullets come my way, and I'd rather them come at me than the kids. So, at some point we'll be standing in front of you, and you all will be saying to me, you told us this was going to happen, and it will. It's just everybody's impatient. Everybody wants it right now. And, I brought it on myself because, I said it's a one-year plan. Well, you have to say that because I don't want the kids that have 1 year left to think I'm looking beyond their last season.
And that's something that Coach told Elijah and me when he joined us on Monday. That sound you heard was before the team left for Auburn yesterday. I think a lot of people probably hope he's right in the sense that, yeah, I'll be standing here later telling you, see, we got it going. But the impatience, as we've talked about, Elijah, doesn't just stem from just the casual, so-called typical fan. We have talked a lot. You and I have not been working together all that long, but I've told you things that I've done in my career when I've been around here and how sometimes as a lifer, I have seen fans, football fans, especially Gamecock football fans, as soon as you get that win over Georgia early in the season or something like that, or you get a big win somewhere, hey, we're just as good as, and it's like, well, not quite. Hold on. On any given day, a lot of good things can happen, but over time, you've got to find a way to build and sustain, and baseball has done that. And, Paul knows what program he took over. But I'm going to say once again, this time a year ago, this program was poised to be a host in the NCAA tournament. Didn't happen. Late slide hurt them, and they went to Raleigh as a 2 seed. But, the impatience stems from, like, an actual knowledge of what has been. And while you haven't been to Omaha since 2012, you have been to the Supers since then. And again, I'll say you were in pretty good shape last year, but I think there were some machinations going on behind the scenes that ultimately helped erode some of the way the ball club was playing, Mm-hmm. So impatience in this case, I don't know if warranted is the right word, but it's the word I'll choose to use because I think fans understand that South Carolina baseball is a proud program, a successful program, and it really should never look like what it looks like right now.
And it's the lack of patience that we're seeing is a culmination of not being where you should be for the course of the last, 12 years? 14 years? I mean, for a while. Like, it's been a slow build, too. You've seen the gradual decline ever since Ray stepped down from the job. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where a lot of that comes from.
This will be the 5th time since then that they've missed the playoffs.
You will have missed the playoffs more times than you have gone to Omaha by a significant margin. How many times have they hosted regionals since then?
3, 4.
So yeah, would you say it's less?
And remember, one was a 2 seed. Remember, one was sort of a backdoor one because was it Old Dominion couldn't host?
Yeah, so we won't count that. I'll count hosting as a 1 seed. Which, again, the standard that you said, rightfully so.
I want to say 4, but I'll have to double check, man. It comes some runs together, but I want to say 4 plus the 1, but I could be wrong.
When you get to the point where you have won back-to-back titles, you've played for 6 titles, you've gone to Omaha countless times.
11.
You know, like the standard of hosting a regional is a very fair one, and when you miss the tournament entirely, more than you've done that, then you've fallen off of a cliff, and that's where the program is right now, and it's hard to get back up there.
I think Chad hosted twice. Mart twice. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Just a few short years ago. Yeah. You even hosted.
So, no. So the impatience is, if not warranted, if that's
understood, it's certainly understood.
Yes. Absolutely. And so I get it. And you made a great point. It's been a slow burn towards this. It's taken, you've seen signs here and there. And yes, it is happening at the same time that there has been more parity created across the Southeastern Conference. Again, the rise of Tennessee, the reemergence of Georgia, the rise of Kentucky. Vanderbilt hadn't gone anywhere. Arkansas hadn't gone anywhere. And this year you added mighty Texas. Oh, by the way, you actually saw Oklahoma once when you were in the World Series. So, and they've been to a few. Mississippi's have won titles, although State just made a change. And then here's Butch Thompson doing good things with Auburn. And Bama's pretty good. And sometimes people, I swear, I think people get frustrated when they see Alabama or Auburn, and they're like, they're not even trying. And they are. But to what degree relative to what South Carolina fans have seen?
Like, baseball's not Auburn and Alabama.
I feel like when Alabama gets good at baseball, it's like, oh, well, that's cool. Not. No, we're working on that.
They don't fancy themselves as baseball schools.
They're not a baseball.
You have fancied yourself
Carolina's
as a baseball school.
LSU's a baseball school. Texas is a baseball school. Arkansas is a baseball school. Vandy, Florida, baseball schools. You've been there with them. And now, thank goodness that Missouri is propping you up. That's the feeling that people get around here. But South Carolina's a baseball school. Doesn't mean you can't be a football school or whatever else school. LSU's a football school. Texas is a football school. Trust me, I get it. They're baseball schools, too. And they take it very seriously. And
they win.
South Carolina has and wants to again. We'll see. Gamecocks and Auburn tonight. We'll have it for you here starting at 7:45. Right?
It should be 6:45 because the game should start at 7 now.
Oh, this says 7:45, but I don't know. I was thinking maybe they had an hour later since it's Central Time.
I think that was the
original? Okay.
Yeah.
It's soon. Just keep it here.
It's tonight.
Just keep it here. Drive around the SEC is next.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with 3 significant traffic backups to report to you. It appears as if none of them are accident-related. Thankfully, we do have some pretty significant stop-and-go traffic reported on I-26 eastbound between Piney Grove Road near exit 104 and I-20 near exit 107B. I-26 eastbound also continues to be a little messy as road construction has 2 lanes closed a little further down on US 21 near US 176 and exit 119. So 26 eastbound experiencing a lot of traffic right now. We also have some stop-and-go traffic reported on 26 westbound between Augusta Road, exit 111, and St. Andrews Road near exit 106.
It is Drive Around the SEC time. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. All right, the game does indeed start at 7 o'clock Eastern, so 6:45 airtime. It's not my fault. I don't print these things. I'm going to blame somebody else just because I'm like that.
You're a monster.
I am. But it's 7 o'clock. 6:45 airtime, 7 o'clock first pitch. Tonight and tomorrow. Tonight, I'd also, just because I said I would and I did, I checked the forecast with our friends at AccuWeather.
So blame them if this is incorrect.
First pitch should be just a 7% chance of rain and 84 degrees. And really doesn't pick up with a rain chance until after 11. So we should get this one in. Now, tomorrow, if you're wondering.
It's only a day away.
It's true. Thank you, Annie. I know that's from Annie. She did sing that one, right? Tomorrow, we have a 88% chance of rain all day long. Ugh. That's it.
Lionel Richie would like to know, is there a chance of rain all night
long? Yeah, Saturday doesn't look a whole lot better.
Boo.
Sorry. I'll sing Lionel Richie for you on tomorrow's program. The Gamecocks and the Auburn Tigers, the only SEC baseball series that begins tonight. And again, Derek and Coach Lake will be on the call a little bit later on. We mentioned this earlier in the day, but just to reiterate, one of the big stories coming out, again, it's not news yet, but Seth Emerson of The Athletic, who covers the Southeastern Conference and is our good friend here, we've known a long time, along with Andrew Marchand of The Athletic, who covers sports business and television for The Athletic nationally, both reporting today that it does seem that Disney/ESPN is willing to pay the Southeastern Conference more money should the SEC choose to go to a 9-game conference football schedule. There is also buzz around that topic that it could be decided at this month's meetings down in Destin, the annual SEC spring meetings. But Seth did caution it might not happen at those meetings. There is also a lot of speculation about the future format of the college football playoff and whether or not the SEC and Big Ten get the automatic spots that they're likely going to ask for. Remember how the trial balloon got floated last month when Heather Dinich reported that maybe even television ratings will play in? You know, that's the one they can pull off the table and go, yeah, that was a bad idea. But you know what's a good idea? Automatic qualification.
It wasn't as bad an idea as that one.
Watch for the old bait and switch, and that's probably what we're going to get. And if you get 4 automatic spots and you get a guarantee from Disney to pay you more money, by the way, that more money would be somewhere between 50 and 80 million. Going to go out on a limb and say that the SEC will be asking for the 80. Then I think you see the SEC go to 9 conference football games. There's also discussion, and we've talked about this before, SEC versus Big Ten challenge of some variety.
Making everybody play a game against one of the schools.
Yeah, and again, I would love to just to hold open a couple of weekends. I don't know if you can do it. If you want to do it on one weekend, you can't televise all those games because that'd be 16 games you got to televise in one day. You could, and if you had 8 of them in the SEC and 8 of them in the Big Ten,
Well,
then
does Mississippi State and Northwestern need to be a standalone game? I don't think it does.
well, what did
Put that on the Ocho.
Well, we talked about it, right? Like the way to do it is to hold the weekend open and like have a draw for the first year of just who would be a host in advance, but then otherwise do it based on standings. So in other words, one would play one, et cetera. So you wouldn't know well in advance the way we do with most college football schedules, which I think would be more exciting, you know? So maybe you get, you know, say, who were the champions last year? Georgia and Oregon?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you would do, too. You would do league champion and then standings down. I would love to see that. Now, again,
Us as the fake execs, we did our own draft.
That's right. And we're getting ahead of ourselves, but Seth and Andrew reporting Disney now seems willing to pay between $3 and $5 million more per school to SEC members if they choose to go to a 9th conference game.
It's pretty enticing.
And then I think it would be a 3+6 format, 3 permanent opponents and rotate amongst the others so that you would see everybody within a 4-year stretch, home and away. That, to me, becomes ideal. And at that point, please, dear Lord above, don't expand this conference again.
Yeah, I think it's kind of full.
I mean, it's just, it's big.
And could you imagine the discussion we're going to have if they do expand it and you're going to have to throw in more scheduling difficulties, jump through more hoops?
Yeah, I'm tired of jumping through hoops.
Water down your own product.
Yeah.
The Big Ten's already watered down their product.
I agree. But if you had 9 conference games, you had, for South Carolina, let's just use South Carolina, 9 conference games, the Clemson game, a Big Ten game, and one other. I mean, at that point, I can hear some of you going, I hope they play, you know, Blythewood High School. Sorry, Blythewood. I didn't. You were
Catching a stray.
First one that came
Sacrificial lamb to the big.
You know, again, whomever. No, I hope they keep their. Listen, I know in the coming years, I forget the order. Well, let's see. I think the order is this year for sure. Virginia, forget that one. So next year, 26, you're going to host Miami. Then you go to them. Then you have a home and home with Chapel Hill. Then you have a home and home with State. And I know thrown in there as well are games with East Carolina and Appalachian State. So some of those would have to go. I would prefer that you keep the home and homes with those ACC schools and tell the folks in Boone and Greenville, why don't you all play each other? That's what I would prefer. But chances are that some folks might not. But I would love that. I mean, I know that sounds hard. You know what? It is hard.
Making the college football playoff is supposed to be hard.
And as Tom Hanks says in League of Their Own, it's supposed to be hard. It's the hard that makes it great. So I'm here for that. We'll see. First, just tell Mickey to hand over some more checks. Or if nothing else, lots of fast passes for like Guardians of the Galaxy. And
it's the least he could do.
Stuff like that.
Mickey wields a lot of power.
Free dinners at Epcot restaurants. Or just, you know what? Like free.
Like a beer pass or something.
Yeah. Just show a little card. Mickey says I can get beer.
I'd schedule the entire damn conference if they offered that.
At that point, I'm gonna like mugging a bunch of Carolina football players and taking their beer cards.
Hey, some of them aren't old enough to be able to enjoy.
Yeah, that's right. You can't even use yours, freshman. Hand it over.
Sorry, kids.
That's right.
Beer's for grown-ups.
Mississippi State, speaking of expenditures, they could use this extra $5 million for some down payments or interest payments. Mississippi State announced last night that they are building a new $60 million indoor practice facility. They hope that it opens in the summer of 2028. It will be named after Mississippi State sports legend Billy Howard Sr. and his Howard Industries. Will be providing the lead naming gift and named in honor of Mr. Howard, who graduated from State in 1946. You remember him, Elijah?
That's right. Went to school with him.
He played football, basketball, ran track, and earned the nickname Iron Man because he played nearly every minute of every football game while he was in school. I guess he was one of those two-way players back in the day. So That's pretty cool. That's a long time, though, man. 3 years. But when you build something that big, it takes a while.
If it's going to be nice, yeah. Should take some time.
Now, because I have to be this way sometimes, will Jeff Lebby be the coach of Mississippi State when they open that building in 3 summers?
Yes.
I kind of think he's going to.
I think, like the first year, like the roster itself was bad.
Yeah, they were just
going into the year, you knew they were one of the 2 worst teams in the SEC.
Well, again, and you had an interim coach, if you will. I know he became the technical head coach that was running, like the Mike Leach system with like a defensive mindset, and that was a recipe for disaster. So Lebby just he's got a complete rebuild.
Oh yeah.
But I like what he can do.
He's got a healthy quarterback now. Yeah. He had to play with a backup for all but 4 games last year. I think they'll improve.
I agree. I think they will. All right, that's our drive around the SEC. Wrap it up on the other side. All right, welcome back in. Final few minutes of the program. Gamecock baseball coming your way in about an hour's time. Derek and Stewart on the call from Auburn. Again, they should get this one in tonight. Tomorrow could get dicey. We'll see. Elijah, this just came down in the last little bit. The Texas A&M Texas game, the Lone Star Showdown, according to the graphic I'm looking at. Is that what they call it?
I think I've heard it referred to that before.
I don't know if I like that.
I don't either.
Well, it's not my state, so they don't care what I think. Anyway, they are moving to Thanksgiving Friday, Black Friday, if you will, this year. I imagine that's going to be to put a whole bunch of eyeballs on television screens.
Yeah, as if it didn't do that enough last year. Right. I mean, that was one of the most watched games in the SEC last year. But Chris Vanini tweets, news, Texas versus Texas A&M. Will we play it on Black Friday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time? It came back last year for a Saturday, but had historically been played on Thanksgiving or Black Friday from 96 to 2007.
That's good. I'm all for whatever is traditional in the sport of college football, at least as best we can possibly do. And let's be honest, too, man, by and large, Thanksgiving wasn't a traditional weekend for college football. For some, it was. Like, I remember how big a deal it was when I was in college. I forget what year, maybe my sophomore year at Carolina, when West Virginia came here for a Thanksgiving night game. And that was, if I'm not mistaken, we played, that was after, I say we. Sorry, I was a student, and so that counts.
You suit up?
Sorry, yeah, sorry. But I feel bad about that. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say we on the air. It was after the Clemson game, though, if I'm not mistaken.
That's strange.
I think I'm right about that.
That's what
1990
college football reference.
But anyway, but we just didn't see. I say we now, not as a fan or a student or an alum or anything. Just there weren't lots of college games on because Thanksgiving has always been an NFL day, and then by Thanksgiving weekend, school was out. You went home, you saw your folks, and then we had bowl games a month later. There wasn't any.
You were right. They beat West Virginia 29-10.
Yeah, it was a good game. I remember it was cold.
It was indeed on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
A week after losing to Clemson, 24-15.
Yeah. It was fun. It was different. I remember having like Thanksgiving at Mom's. And we packed up some leftovers because we still had to do like the whole, watch the parade thing and then have Thanksgiving. But I think we just bumped it to like right at like noon and had whoever was over. Like I said, packed up some leftovers, and then we were probably in the car by 4.
Very nice.
Yeah. So, it was fun. I remember. Yeah. But
you'll win out of it. Made you bowl eligible.
Yeah. And then they didn't go to a bowl.
Nope. But they would have been eligible.
That's the year. Is that the year? Well, wouldn't know, but I think, is that the year King Dixon said, yeah, they're not going to a bowl? I was thinking that was a year earlier, though. I don't know. But anyway, they didn't go to a bowl.
Yeah, the year earlier, they went 6-4-1.
Yeah, that's the year they didn't go to a bowl. What was the year they went 3-6-2? 91?
Ooh, let's see. Let me go back to the school history tab here.
But anyway, Texas
has been the best 3-6-1 team of all time.
No, the best 3-6-2 team was 86. That's the Beano Cook quote of that's the best 3-6-2 team I've ever seen.
1991 was 3-6-2.
Ties were Duke and Louisiana Tech. Am I right about that?
Let's see. Schedule and results.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know if you had that.
The ties that year, the opener against Duke.
Yeah.
And Louisiana Tech, tied Louisiana Tech, lost at East Carolina, at West Virginia, at NC State, at Florida State, at North Carolina, home against Clemson.
Yeah.
They beat up on poor ETSU, though.
Well, that Louisiana Tech game, I was like, seriously? And what was it? Like, wasn't one of them like 12-12 or something stupid?
Louisiana Tech was 12-12.
Yeah, that was brutal, man.
Please tell me you were at that game.
I was.
You were at a 12-12 tie.
Yeah.
With the fighting Terry
listen, by then I
Bradshaws.
I had my streak had started, the season prior. I've told you from the 1990 season until November of 2019, I didn't miss home game at Williams-Brice.
It's a long time. 29 years.
So, and the game I missed was like Chattanooga or something, but it was when Ham and Eric they were playing for a state title over at Benedict, and I was like, I'm going to go to that because that means a lot.
Terrell Owens walking through that door.
Support my good friend Eric and my school, and my kids went there and everything else. So then I finally missed a game. Oh yeah, dude, that 12-12. Ugh. And again,
that is some nasty, nasty.
I was a
work.
Carolina student.
Nasty work.
It was gross. 12-12.
It's a Louisiana Tech.
And like I told you, the best 3-6-2 team to a team like, how did you win 3?
Really though, I mean, you tied with Louisiana Tech.
I mean, they were bad.
Carl Malone wasn't playing for them.
Oh my goodness, or Terry Bradshaw. All right, we'll do it all again tomorrow. I appreciate y'all. Thanks to David Cloutiger for joining us. He's Elijah. I'm Jay. Have a great night.